Hey guys, Marvin here with Driven by Graphics. I just got an order for some die cut stickers and got the file downloaded here. And I was just going to go through the process of how I end up creating the cut lines for these. I'll go ahead and extend this out full screen. This is the file as downloaded, as provided. And I just brought it into Photoshop here within my layers panel. I'm going to unlock this to allow me to basically delete this background out. I did talk to Blake. I just see his name there, Blake's Backspin. And he was okay with me basically creating this sticker in a two-tone where it's just white in terms of the background and the blue color, and then we have a red one as well. But basically to get rid of this off-white color. So I'm just going to use the magic wand tool for this, and I can lower this up. I think the tolerance down a bit. Let's start with 32 and see how that does. Now, I do want to turn contiguous off because when I click here, I want it to also select inside the ball. And that looked like that did a pretty good job. Let's delete that, see how that did. On the surface, it looks good, but let's put a different color back there. Let's put something with maybe some high contrast. Let's maybe just do straight red. See how that looks. And really the idea is just to try to see some contrast to see if there's stuff that it didn't select. Overall, that looks pretty good. Let's do one more. I'm going to do like a gray. Just by default, a 50% gray. Yeah, and so on this, you can see just barely in some of these corners, like here, that it didn't get. That's not going to show up in a sticker that's going to be a 3-inch size sticker. And those are white pixels anyways, so they wouldn't print. But if there's a lot of color that's left over, then sometimes I would go in and basically increase the tolerance so it makes a wider selection and could potentially get into there. But again, based on the size of this sticker, it's going to be a 3-inch sticker, and those are I know for sure not going to show up in the final product. Let's go back to my move tool. I'm going to select both of those layers, get rid of those. Now I did notice within the file itself, there's kind of some pixelation in here and how this was created. I don't know who created it. If this was, it could have even been a chat GPT type of scenario here. I didn't discuss that with Blake. He just provided these files, and typically for a 3-inch sticker, it really doesn't have to be a super high quality file just because they're printed so small. However, I did notice, like I said, just some pixelation in here. So I'm going to attempt to clean that up. And basically what I want to do is hold down the control key, and I'm going to select this layer thumbnail. And that's going to select all the active pixels that are on this layer itself. And actually, I want to use the I key for the eyedropper. This is 5x5. That should be good. Decent little average of color of whatever I pick, because it's going to sample a 5x5 space here to end up picking that blue, because like I mentioned, there's obviously that pixelation there. And then I'm going to click on the first layer, and I'm going to do an edit fill, and we're going to use the foreground color, which is what when I use the eyedropper tool, it went here. And so now it makes it all the solid blue color, as opposed to when I hide it, you can see that pixelation or noise that shows up in that image there. So there's that one. I'm going to delete this layer. So this is all we're left with. Now I'm going to go to my edit tab here, and image, trim, and I'm going to trim all the transparent pixels around the image. So we're down to this is what's left. I'm going to check the image size. I use Control-Shift-I, or you can go to the, I believe it's under the Edit or Image tab and Image Size. Let's go ahead and change this to 300. Actually, let's just do 150, because that'll give me closer to the 3 inches here. Go with that. I'm going to save this. Hopefully this goes into his folder. And I'm going to call this edited, because it's my edited version. Rather than make this too long and lengthy, and completely do the other one, because I've already feel like I'm taking a fair amount of time here. I'm just going to go through and do just his. Let's find Blake in here. And this edited version. Imported that in. I'm going to do a clip art trace. That traced really quick, single color, just the blue. Did really well there. 34 objects. So this is actually a pretty decent trace. I could probably just print that. But I don't like actually, yeah. Sometimes when text itself is traced, it looks a little wonky. I don't really care for how that traced. Let's put this back. And ultimately what I'm going to do is just trace the outside edge of this. I'm going to go to Object, Shaping, Boundary. And what that did, let me delete this out. Let's make this magenta, the cut contour line for Roland. And you can kind of see, basically it just did the outline around everything. Now there are some additional pixels here that aren't completely smooth. I don't love that, but I'm going to add some contour to this now. We're going to cut a little bit further, actually, before I do that. No, we're good. We can go ahead and do the contour. Let's extend this out a bit. Nice clean line. That's pretty good there. Kind of like that sizing. Now, one of the spots that I don't care for when I'm doing die cuts on stickers is this point and how sharp that angle is. The blade itself just does not like doing that, and has a tendency on some of these sharp ones when it's doing the die cut, if you will, of these, that has a tendency to break tips of blades or just leave just the backing of the vinyl just doesn't cut very well. So I'm going to actually extend this out. Let's go 1, 2 more. It's actually a pretty nice cut. Just getting into where there's quite a bit of extra of that white area there. This was the original line here, so I'm going to hide that for the moment. We're back to this line. I'm going to make that this magenta cut contour line. Let's smooth that out. I chose this option here in Corel to select all the nodes, and I'm going to do reduce nodes. Smooths them out a bit. We still have this little bit here. So I'm going to use the shape tool. Let's actually delete. Looks like this one is a little low. I'm going to add a new one in here and a new one in here. And then I'm just going to delete these out. And this should smooth out really nicely. There we go. So a lot of times when there's nodes that are close together, if you're not familiar with doing vector curves often, it ends up kind of making them unsmooth because it's trying to add in detail in those additional points a lot of times, especially when they're really close to each other, kind of like this. So if we go here and then say here and then just delete these two out, it just cleans that up, smooths it out. It kind of do similar here, really. I'll leave it. That kind of comes back. It follows that pretty well. Nonetheless, what I wanted to do is come back to my contour, and let's do an inside contour. Something like that. Let's look at, yeah, it's pretty good there. All right, so by doing that, let me delete out this line, or hide it at least. If you notice when I zoom in close now, rather than having that sharp angle, we've got a nice little curve there. And the same thing up here as well. On that other line, this was a sharp angle, relatively sharp. It's only about maybe 90-ish degrees, a little bit less. But this one was a pretty sharp angle. So by doing that inside contour, smooths all of those out, and then also reduces that white space a bit as well. So this is what I'm going to propose to Blake. I'm going to send this over to him as a little mock-up and see if we're good to proceed with production.